I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. We are in all-star mode, goblin mode, gremlin mode, ghoul mode. Andrew Quo, we are back from Cleveland. How are you feeling, buddy?
As the reigning tallest hobgoblin, or maybe shortest goblin, I feel pretty incredible, man. I'm still coming off that goblin high from the Motor City.
Would you say a hobgoblin is a lesser goblin or a greater goblin, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the eye test, is this the goblin eye test? I think a hobgoblin is probably a higher tier of goblin, only because of the letter H.
Well, when we were in Cleveland for All-Star Weekend, you went
The motor.
hobgoblin mode. I went gnome mode.
What? Hideo Nomo over here. That's a joke you made. I saw your joke. I'm walking all over you, man.
You stepped on my Hideo gnome mode joke? That's so messed up.
Yeah, that's what hobgoblins do.
Yeah, that is God mode hobgoblin behavior.
And
Apex hob.
there were fools that we were dining with, spending time with in Cleveland, asking us what we were talking about, this goblin mode. And I'm like, you're fucking looking at it. What do you mean, what is goblin mode? This is, I am goblin mode.
Yeah, we're going to have the pierogies because we're going goblin mode. Just a blank look back. Absolutely, sir. Your sauerkrautini is coming right up.
Would you guys add for a menial cost some borscht backs with your and beers?
But, well, yes. So we were in Cleveland. We did a little live pod. We did a book signing at The Land, which was a temporary space that's been operational for the last month in Tower City Center. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool. It was cool. Lots of cookies merch as far as the eye can see.
Wow.
Listeners came by, told us about the restaurants in Cleveland, told us, like, you know, how to live in Ohio, how to get it in Ohio.
Yeah, where was Cam? Where was Jim Jones? Maybe they're not getting it in Ohio.
They used to get it
They
in
used
Ohio.
to get it. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, thanks to everyone from Complex who helped put this together, Bedrock, all these people who made it possible, and we had a great time. Stanley, Laura, Brooke, Bruce.
Hells yeah.
The Lord Bruce, who came through with a clutch save when I was delaying Spike Lee, and in order to get him a copy of The Joy of Basketball, and Bruce came out of nowhere like an angel out of heck.
Imagine me
Gave Spike a book. That was
maybe like 40 feet away in full goblin mode, stressed the hell out. And, you know, Spike was there just like being regal, enjoying his afternoon during the All-Star Weekend festivities. And we were like, we got to get him a damn book. But there was no book to be had. So someone had to run the book up from the Complex shop that we had just done our book signing in. Spike was getting in the elevator, and I saw you in full hobgoblin, in no-mo mode, running to the elevator. I was like, what's his plan? First of all, I'm a goblin.
The plan was that there is no plan. It's to delay Spike. The elevator doors were closing. I stuck my arm in. Security didn't like that.
No. I was trying to put myself into your brain at that moment. And all I can think of what you were thinking was, okay, Quo's in goblin mode. And then I had no more thoughts. So you're going to ask him to come out and wait.
I went gnome mode. And our guy Bruce came up and, like, as Spike was trying to figure out how to detach from this gnome that was confronting him in the elevator, as his security tried to extract him from the situation, a book arrived and was given to Spike, gave him a nod, and we're on our way.
If it was any other gnome, he would have just gone down. But he saw the tallest gnome roll up, a gnome that touched glass.
Well, he's a gremlin. He gets it.
Oh, wow. True. Checks out.
He knows. He knows when someone's gone gnome. He he's been there, absolutely. But yeah, we had fun there. That was really cool. So, how many gastropubs in Cleveland would you say that we went to over like a 48-hour span?
Well, we had to pass up 5 or 6 because there was not enough gastro space in my stomach to sample all of these pubs. But when they say the land, they mean the land of gastropubs.
You walk down the street, you're just passing gastropub after gastropub. They're all little breweries with beers and burgers and loaded fries. It is a city that likes a gastropub.
Well, the first thing
this is a new development. We were told by one of the cabbies that this is only the last 5 years. It's become an absolute epicenter of gastropubbery.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I did when I landed back in New York, when I touched ground, was I went right to a gastropub. And I got fries, like a big pile of gastropub fries, not loaded. I'm like, where's the entire animal carcass on this? Can you pour all the cheese you have in liquid form over these fries? Where's the rosemary, damn it?
Well, it's odd when you lift a fry up and it's not supporting, like a fist-sized hunk of short rib. I'm like, it's just a fry? I thought these were delivery vehicles for short ribs or venison or stuffed pierogies.
Yeah.
That city went carb on carb. Let's give it the respect it deserves.
Hells yeah. Yep. It was a meal all into itself. But sold as a side. Just a side piece. Sort of like
a smorgas carb.
Imagine me, Asian hobgoblin, not having any Asian food options for 3 whole days, man.
They must have had them somewhere. You were just trapped in a maze, a labyrinth of gastropubs.
Well, when we were trapped in the labyrinth of Tower City trying to get to our seats for Slam Dunk, I passed a few Asian food stands in the food court. My heart went pitter-patter a little bit, but I didn't want to ruin the fantasy creature mode that we were in. I didn't want to shift into a fantastical Asian creature.
Oh, I mean, you could have gone orc.
I do love an orc.
Orc ribs.
Orc fried rice. Trust me, I wanted it.
You're telling me this rice was fried by
Oh. So basically that was Cleveland in a nutshell. You got a bunch of orcs with walks and a bunch of other creatures rolling around in Tower City.
Let's dish. Because the god Cat Marnell came through. She was there at the book signing. Great seeing her. And she is typically our gossip correspondent. So we gotta find out if she's got some more intel. But we can share what we saw. So when we went out 2 nights, and the scene there is mostly in the hotels, as far as I could tell.
We were mid-tier. There's 3 tiers, right? We established these 3 tiers of access. The first low tier is like people looking amazing, dressed up in team colors, excited. This is like a thrill to be there. Second tier was more dismissive.
They're at gastropubs, and they're just going to gastropubs though. Like that's the ceiling is a gastropub.
They're just like piling short ribs onto carbs. It's just incredible. They see a flat piece of bread and short ribs going on it, man. And then there's a mid tier, which is like more dismissive, maybe our experience a little bit, because we were in a few hotel gastropubs around some legends that we'll talk about. And then there's a top tier, which is tough access, which is like players and their families, right?
Yeah, that's where you would see, I guess, like where LeBron's hanging out. They don't allow like a hobgoblin, say, or a gnome within several block radius of those kind of events.
No, they.
No,
it's a no gnome policy.
No,
They're the most gnome gnomes.
So we were at the Ritz as Andrew and I typically do. Like if you want to find us, just find the nearest Ritz-Carlton.
We're there.
And there will be Goblin mode.
Yep.
We saw some legends.
Woo!
We saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We saw Guy Fieri. We saw Guy Fieri. We saw Sean Marion around. We saw Allen Iverson briefly at a different place.
Spike Lee, as noted.
Spike Lee, as detailed.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk more later, actually, about the Kareem moment with our guest today, who is the artist Hank Willis Thomas, who will be joining us on a live pod that we recorded yesterday. So you're going to get that after we chat you up for a little while. He was great, by the way. He's fantastic.
Yeah. And our buddy Jeremy, Golden Nets.
Oh, yes, of course. How can I forget that?
Yep.
But it's coming up. Just a wonderful experience. Like Goblin mode shit.
Yeah, back to Goblin mode shit.
Back to Goblin mode. There's been some talk.
Oh my God. What?
Streetwear is dead.
Oh.
When they dragged you out of your cushy little dime square lair. Finally, had to drag him out kicking and screaming to America's heartland where the Patriots live. What do you think about streetwear now, buddy?
I have my own opulent tip. Streetwear is alive and well, man. It's like it was a sea of tapered track pants, Yeezys, a form of a popular t-shirt, not the classic V-Lone, not the classic undercover cop, anti-social cub look, but like variations of it. It was awesome. I'm into it. Very confusing. Also, a lot of Timberlands, even before Cole Anthony got his New York City moment on. It was snowy in Cleveland and very, very cold. Perfect hobgoblin weather, as they say.
I mean, I was going to say, I think we saw a lot of Timberlands because it was brick.
It was brick, but why weren't people wearing Hokas like we were? Those are the superior boots.
Well, that's coastal elite behavior for sure.
That's some opulence. Streetwear is alive and well. I know one of our best friends loves this move where if he sees anything, he'll claim it just being over so his bases are covered. So if you were like, yeah, I built like a Goblin gastropub in Web 7, he's like, oh, those are so played. I'm like, oh, fuck. So if it becomes real, he can be a day one, and if it doesn't work, he's correct.
What are the names for? I guess they would still be a beret, but they're the ones that are kind of floppier, and they're almost kind of they don't have the brim necessarily. They're circular. Would they still be called a beret?
All right, talk about this shape in terms of Kangol and Nas in the corner of a Kangol party, ushering us over to go Goblin mode.
Well, right, of course. Well, they're sort of formless but circular, if that makes sense. The top is kind of it's not tight to your head. It rises up a little like a mini little chef's hat sort of, but it's circular. And it may have the little knob on the top. I think it might still technically be a beret. I saw a lot of those around New York during Fashion Week. So I'm going to declare they are over.
Wait, for the fellas?
Oh, yeah, for fellas. Fellas were wearing them around.
I like it.
So I'm declaring that over, but I just want to
yeah.
know what they're called so I can properly exile them from being super cool, which they apparently are.
Yeah. Okay, those roundish hats that the fellas are wearing are over.
I think it's just a beret.
I seen some beret-ish looking things happening, JJ beret-ish. But like, okay, I'm ready to declare that as over.
I mean, if I could find one, I would probably wear it for a little while so I could be identified with the beret trend.
Yeah. Even
though it's over.
Yeah.
But I have to really choose a side here. It's kind of Ukraine, Russia, I guess.
Oh man, I wish they did like a halftime show for the All-Star instead of, well, we saw Khaled for Saturday, but I wish it was like more like the Super Bowl and it could be opulent Crips.
Ooh, that's nice. That's nice. You were sitting on that for a week, huh?
The delivery kind of was a Goblin mode, but the idea was also Goblin mode, so I'm pleased.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how this World War III is going to be, because I'm already dreading the tweets. Like, oh, we were having World War III. I just want to watch Netflix and have like insulin.
Are you talking about Putin and Moscow and Ukraine?
Yeah, I'm talking about the millennialized responses to war are going to be pretty dreary. Like 200,000 likes.
Yeah.
All I want to do is not be bothered and not have FOMO. And they gave us World War III.
Is going Goblin mode just being not on Twitter? Because, man, it was like 72 hours. All I saw was goblins as far as the eye can see, because, you know, I was in the full mode. And it's because I wasn't really on Twitter because I was too busy chasing down Io Dusumu.
Oh yeah, we did see Io, and you made a beeline.
I was excited to see him. Okay. He was a serious lad. Can you blame him though? It's like,
No.
it's trash being out there as a baller.
But you also went to the complex space.
Yeah, he did an interview. He said hello, took a picture with our Joy of Basketball.
No, he was totally chill. But he
Yeah.
is a stoic figure from our limited experience. He just wanted to know where the bulls were in the book. We're like, there's bulls in there, man.
He picked it up, and it took him a few seconds to ask us where the bull's at, which was a great question. I'm like, they're everywhere in that book. Trust.
And he did it in a kind of proper Chicago way, like, where the bulls?
Yeah, where the bull's at. Respect. I'm like, Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. They're all in there. The Joy of Basketball, available now. So I got very excited to see Io. I heard there was someone.
There is an Othello Harrington in there. There's a Gennaro Pargo. There is a Darius Sungala. However you say his name. They're all in there.
Yeah,
Io, just dig around. You'll find a Mike Sweetney.
Bison Dele. Look for it. But he was still Williams, I think. Scott Williams, right? On the Bulls.
Is that Jason Tatum or is that Luol Deng?
What? Or is it Martell fucking Webster? I was excited to see Io. I definitely was buzzing to try to get him to say hello. I was hyped, but I was not hyped to see like the god Dan Gilbert rolled up, and I was respect to someone who has accomplished quite a bit in his life, but I was not as excited to see someone like, we'll talk about Kareem. My two favorites, Io and Guy Fieri.
Well, yeah. I can't think of any owner that I'd be excited to see. That's just not what I care about basketball for.
Yeah, that's about it. But he's like, he's royalty, right? Like, he owns City Center, he owns the Cavs, like, and he's also a typographical genius, graphic design lord.
I'm just thinking of a world without laughter.
A French world without laughter. But he looks good. You know, he's had a tough few years of health stuff, and he looked good. And it was nice to see him like doing the meet and greet. He hung out for a while at the spot, so that was nice to see. I mean, on a human level.
When I got there on Friday, we just missed Quavo. The doors were still closed because Quavo was in there. I guess just like they had been like, can't have the common folk around the legend of the Migos. But Quavo was in there. I just did not see him. I would have liked to see Quavo.
You did see Flav.
Oh yeah, Flavor Flav. We got a photo of him holding the book.
Yeah.
Legend. Like the greatest Robin of all time.
He invented Robins. There's no Robin without Flav.
So all this to say, man, we had a lot of fun out there.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. Thanks to everyone at the Land, Tower City Complex, everyone who put it together.
Yeah.
And we put out a shirt that has Carmelo on the back and
Young
the Joy
Carmelo.
of Basketball on
Okay.
the front. And it sold out, but we have some for Patreons that we're gonna put up maybe later this week. And if you are quick, you can grab one because they're not a ton left. They went pretty fast out there.
Yeah,
I also found out that one of them got into Carmelo's hands. I was psyched about that.
that's right. Shout out to Stanley. Stanley made that happen, I think, right?
Stan the man.
Oh, I was confused
So-
because there was a lot of Mellow talk, and there's 2 Mellows now.
Well, I mean, this is so boring for the listeners, but yes, a book also went to LaMelo, but we were supposed to get a signed one back, and that has clearly not happened.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just how the sausage gets made at All-Star Weekend, guys. Like a little peek behind the veil.
That's how the bootleg poutine gets created in these gastropubs in Motor City, the Land.
Freaking Motor City, what a weekend! Up next, Hank Willis Thomas.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Amazing. I want you to. I have many questions for you, but just a quick background. You have a show up that coincides with All-Star Weekend here in Cleveland, and the work is based around the NBA culture and the logo, and I believe it's in conjunction with the NBA officially.
Some might say.
I mean, it's wonderful. Maybe you can tell us about it.
Yeah, it was definitely inspired by the NBA.
Uh-huh.
But before we get started, I was just curious if you could tell me anything about the joy of basketball.
Hell yeah.
He immediately turned the tables on us.
Yes.
I'm just curious.
how to turn
But I mean,
tables.
what do you know about the joy of basketball?
As in the book itself.
Oh, there's a book?
Have you heard about
Nice, nice.
There's a book. What's about the joy of basketball? Are there special things in the book?
There's some art.
Oh,
perhaps,
art.
by this guy Andrew Kuo.
Right. There's some writing by this guy Ben Dietrich, and it's kind of our worldview of the game, especially in the age of living in NBA Twitter, media. It is turning around and enjoying the game for the characters, for the jokes, for the insane stories, with a lot of criticality, but none of like the vitriol that we're used to now in talking about these genius athletes.
And then our premise was that the NBA actually started in the summer of 1996 with the drafting of Allen Iverson. Prior to that,
That's
we'll
a
put
blank to
quotes
me.
around basketball,
Yeah.
the NBA. But 1996 it all began. And that was conveniently 25 years ago today. So just one of those nice quarter-century marks that made a lot of sense.
And when the last time the All-Star was in Cleveland?
Oh, is that right? 25?
25, yeah.
He's got this history now.
And
We actually saw AI.
you did.
Well, there's a photo of him and some other legends. Who else was with him? Mello,
Paul Pierce.
a fan. Paul Pierce, a basketball fan, was there. But we saw him at, well, it was the Westin, I think.
The West End.
And
Well, he did the versus thing with Tracy McGrady.
Yep.
I was unclear what they were doing. Was it a highlight versus?
Yes, it was. I think it was the first, not the first, but one of the first highlight verses, which was play to play.
How did that go? Did you watch it?
I watched a little bit of it. It was fun. I mean, we know the athletes from their interviews, from their time on the court.
Yeah.
But just seeing them reflect on moments,
Very
and then also with someone else, and it's still. I mean, it's funny because it's just like they're not really playing because they can't play like they used to, but
Yeah.
they can talk trash like they still.
Amazing.
So,
I think that was kind of the original premise of the verses, where it wasn't necessarily a rap battle.
Yeah.
It was talking and reminiscing about the tracks, and I really love that. Like one seeing like Erykah Badu and just people just talking about the music and reminiscing about songs that were 20 years old. So I would like to see Tracy McGrady and Allen Iverson discussing their highlights because they're two of like the definitive players of the joy of basketball's realm
Yep.
of expertise.
Well, Hank, I saw you were
Wait,
born.
one
in-
more question.
Oh, here we go. I was warned about this.
You told us. You told us.
and so, if you had your own versus battle, cookies,
Oh, wow.
Who would you
Who would we challenge?
go up against? Yeah.
Grady and Iverson.
Both of them at the same time?
But they don't really have a podcast, though.
That's the advantage.
Could like
Cookies
podcast
won.
for podcasts.
Like just playing like our best pods.
Yeah.
Just hour after hour of perfect pod after perfect pod. We'd have to play them in reverse succession, so each one gets more perfect as time goes on.
Right. I'm trying to think of what rappers have the funniest basketball ad libs.
Yeah, who are your ops?
Who are the best? I mean, RX Nephew raps a lot about basketball.
I mean,
Maybe it would be him.
you're just baiting me into talking
Curtis
about
Blow.
Rochester rap, which I will do.
Rochester rap.
He's from Rochester, the home of
Kodak, which is, Kodak and rap, Kodak Black. That's,
unrelated but close.
I mean, you might be the only person who can connect.
Garbage Plates.
We just immediately
rap.
went into Rochester talk. It's great.
Well, Hank, you're from New Jersey, right?
Nope.
You were born in New Jersey.
Yes.
How long did you live there?
2 years.
Oh, okay. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York. Upper
Okay.
West Side.
A long-suffering Knicks fan, I assume.
Not in the period where I paid attention to the Knicks.
That's not painful then. Being a Knicks fan when you don't watch
I
them,
moved to
pay attention.
California. I moved to D.C. actually in high school. So when I left, John Starks was blowing up the Bulls, and it was like a good moment.
That dunk won them a few championships, from what I recall.
Yeah, but then I went to D.C. for a while, where the Bullets were not at all interesting.
Fascinating era, though. Was that the Chris Webber era?
This was before Chris Webber. This
Like
was
Harvey Grant era.
yeah.
Nice. Tom Gugliotta?
Yes. Wait, was it Jake Gugliotta?
Oh, Tom.
I thought were there brothers?
There's two Googs? There was two?
There's
There's gotta be a
a
Google.
second Goog.
Gugliotta two?
Googs
More
too?
Googs?
More Googs.
He was good.
Maybe I'm thinking about somebody from high school.
I'm with it.
Phil Gugliotta. Your oldest.
Tony
and dearest
Googs.
friend. Tony
That
Googs.
was a friend. That's who it was. It was a friend from high school, from college.
He's this friend of mine who broke my wrists when I owed him money.
A few episodes ago, Ben thought he had interaction with somebody and just remembered he just saw a photo of them. He was like,
I remember I saw James Dolan at this local Christmas restaurant, and he's like, "You did?" I'm like, "No, I saw a photo."
I saw a photo
It
of
felt
him
like-
around that
It
time.
felt like I saw James Dolan.
COVID gives us a lot of freedom in our storytelling.
That's right.
Seeing a picture is almost as good as being there during COVID times.
I mean, my friend said hypocrisy is the greatest form of freedom, and I've really embraced that. I've lived by that credo.
Home is where the hypocrisy is.
Exactly.
So
It's my
tell-
show.
Yes, I want to hear about this wonderful art show.
Well, I want you to see it.
I know it's been a whirlwind.
Look, we've seen photos.
That's right. That's right.
True.
like being there.
Yeah, basically like touching the art. Yeah, I have a show up. It's called The New Black Aesthetic, NBA. It's compiled of 6 quilts and a 10-foot stainless steel sculpture. And the quilts are mixed media works that are using jerseys from the past 40 years of the game that are combined to make portraits, basically using silhouettes of it all started, actually, the part that was sanctioned by the NBA was the NBA and Bleacher Report came to me and other artists inviting us to do something for the 75th anniversary, and I ultimately decided to make a jersey quilt of the Jerry West logo, and we made some merchandise that's actually being sold by Mitchell & Ness, and there's like a blanket that we did, which was really cool. And while we were talking about 75th anniversary and also all the logo controversy, the questions of like, how will the next 75 years look? What's the best way to represent it? I started to think about and see images of other silhouettes that people were talking about could, be a new icon. And I thought it would be fun to explore making quilts. So we used jerseys. For instance, with Shaq, we used that sneaker logo the Shaq
dunking.
Yeah.
Two-handed dunk with his knees
Legs
kind
in
of
the
pulled
air.
up.
Yeah. And then he he played for the Heat, the Lakers, and the Magic, and we had
Celtics. He was a Celtic.
Phoenix Suns god.
Phoenix
Shaquille
Suns
O'Neal.
god. Was he a Cav for a second?
Yep.
Am I kidding?
Shaq moved around quite a bit at the end.
What number? Oh, at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is not prime.
No.
I'm like
No.
LSU to Boston. That could happen.
Yeah. Very late career.
Yes,
Shaq.
I do actually remember those years. Wait, did he play with LeBron at the Cavs?
I think
He might have
At the
overlapped.
end,
with- yeah.
I forgot all about that era.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that. That was
I
like,
love finding photos of guys in uniforms that you don't recall. It's just like being there, but
Rasheed Wallace as a Nick.
or like
I remember
John
that because he
Starks.
bought my art.
No, Rasheed is
he
a collector?
Came to my gallery and bought some.
No.
Yeah, that was cool.
I think for this book, someone was just like, we're doing an interview, and someone's like, who's your favorite player? And without even thinking about it, I just blurted out Rasheed Wallace.
And now you're stuck with that for life.
I'm down with that. And now he's a collector of fine art.
It's a good answer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
Well, both of you guys can share a little insight on this. This could be just what I noticed because I like basketball, but I do feel like there is a connection between contemporary art and basketball that seems different from other sports. Is this just a totally fake observation that I'm coming up with, or is there some truth here?
I think there is some truth here. I think there's like basketball is a game where you get to see the personalities and the characters on the court clearer than a baseball game or a football game with helmets, and this has been talked about. But I think the accessibility of the game, like the folk nature of it, like everyone plays growing up, and you don't need much to get a game going like you do baseball. You don't need that much space, and I think I think basketball kind of inspires artists in a different way than like hockey would. In the same way soccer maybe does abroad, basketball in America. I don't know.
And so back to the joy of basketball.
All right,
One
let's
of the
go.
things that you'll notice is how basketball is very much connected to visual arts. Like graphic design has been a critical part of the game in a different way, where not only just the jerseys but the logos, they carry a currency, the colors. So there's like, and you like colors.
I do very much so.
And I think it has to do with
Absolutely, the color spectrum. Also fashion, like sneakers, the sneaker culture, and the way people express themselves through the game as they kind of curate their own identity through what team you like, what clothes you wear, what you're interested in, and it's wonderful. It's huge, and rap music also helps quite a bit because it being, like, in my opinion, like the most exciting audio art form, and it being integral to, like, you go to a game and then you see throughout like like all society of like your fans of film, rappers, politicians even come through.
I mean, from a historical standpoint, if you go back to say the 1940s, 1930s, was baseball prominent within art? And it's like the waning sort of age groups.
Yeah.
So I think of like Roger Angell writing in the New Yorker about baseball was like something that as a kid my dad would always be like, oh, you can read about some baseball and it's in the New Yorker. Like, I don't feel like baseball has that cultural cachet at all anymore.
it's too many guys.
You think it's too many guys?
Yeah.
Baseball teams are huge,
26 guys on a team.
and you only get to see your favorite guy hit 4 or 5 times a game.
In like 8 hours.
I love baseball. It is tedious.
I mean, all the adaptations seem fake. I don't watch baseball anymore, and I haven't in many years. I'm like, they do what now? Someone starts out on second base?
It's that happens now?
Yeah, in extra innings, they put a runner on
See what I
second
mean?
base to expedite the process of getting the game over with because games are too long. I think it's a great adaptation.
That says a lot about Americans because they watch cricket for like a week in other parts of the world.
That's
we
right.
can't even watch a game for like.
Well, there's something
4
beautiful
hours.
about games with no clock, right? Like tennis and baseball and cricket. There's something kind of wistful about it. I know I'm the whisk god, but like
The Sixers with James Harden and Joel Embiid, a game without time, just foul shot after foul shot after foul shot, indefinite.
So Hank, are you following this current? Well, I kind of want to talk about this artwork more because as a super fan, obviously I was interested in which names that you chose and which, like from the past, and kind of like this patchwork idea of like building up this memory. I thought was very wonderful and a little melancholy, a little bit, you know.
You're a sucker for some melancholy, some whist.
I look for it, and I think it makes the work powerful. Can you talk about how you got into the details of these works?
Sure. Well, it actually started a long time ago. I've been making quilts using sports jerseys for a long time. My first ones were actually using basketball jerseys, college basketball jerseys. And
That's right.
I was really interested in the African American quilting tradition.
Yeah.
And I learned that there was a legend that may be true, which I'm saying was true, that during the Underground Railroad, obviously most black people couldn't read because it was illegal to be able to read, but we know that people left messages. Is that somebody's alarm?
Someone's blowing up. Yeah.
People left messages in quilts. They left messages in music. They left messages in dance. There was all these other ways in which people who were trying to communicate did through an open space, but using kind of hidden techniques. And so in the quilting, there would be like patterns that would say flying geese or broken dishes or bow tie, and they all would say, so if you were like on the Underground Railroad, people would put a blanket outside of the safe house, and it would say, look for the house for broken crockery, or you know this place you have to like dress up in a certain way so that you can not be perceived. There's all of these different messages, and I thought a lot about or follow the flying geese. I was thinking a lot about how I was never really good at sports. However, my cousin was really good at sports, and we at that time our family was in Philadelphia. He got a full scholarship going to this boarding school, and everyone thought I was going to be the next him. You know, they called him Juice, and our whole until he got injured, and then everything went the way that it goes when you get injured. But there was this hope that like his talent could lead us to freedom.
Yeah.
There was an escape, and I thought that for a lot of young athletes and their families, their ability to like get into college is like this is our pathway to freedom. And so, but of course that's a multi-billion-dollar industry where nobody gets paid, but the school, the coach, the coaches, the merchandise companies. And so I wanted to so I made these quilts that were like really kind of looking at the quilt codes and then using these jerseys. And then over time I started to think about images and Matisse's images, which were the cutouts and the silhouettes and those. And then really only when we got this, were invited by Bleacher Report and the NBA to do something specifically with the NBA, was like, did it click? I was like, oh, there's a lot of logos and images. And then what's beautiful is when you have like the classic jerseys and you see the names of and Wilt Chamberlain is one of the ones that kind of like him having been in Philadelphia and been Wilt.
Yeah.
I just like felt like that was the first one I really thought would be exciting, and then it just went from there. Just like
that lineage is so cool that you could draw these like parallels. And I feel like when I've been working on stories in communities in like Compton or areas of Chicago, the phrase that always gets used is use the game, don't let the game use you. And that's like really drilled into kids, where it's like, we're not saying you're going pro, but this will get you to college. Like, if you follow this through, we can put you in a position to get an education, and you can like leave this neighborhood and then come back when you feel like it. But that idea of freedom through basketball was really emphasized in like AAU programs in high school basketball. And I love that you draw that parallel back to like the quilts and the Underground Railroad and freedom. I think that's extremely cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I also think my big issue with college sports is, or the NCAA, is how come they don't make just the sport be the major? Like, if I spend like 60 hours a week doing something at school, that seems like homework.
Right.
And so, like, a lot of these guys who feel like their only opportunity is to make it in the NBA or maybe go to Europe or Asia and keep playing, it's like there's so many elements, as we know, to the sport and to the game that is a whole education.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can talk about the NCAA forever and what they've gotten wrong, and our whole take, if I can speak for us, is like, it's not like...
He's speaking for you.
I'm fine with that.
It's not like gravity or the sun rising. Like, we can change these things. They don't have to stay the same. It's like, it's too late. You know, we have all these mechanisms in place. I'm like, just change them. They're wrong. They've been wrong for too long, you know? And I think they changed a minor rule this year where NCAA athletes can get paid for their likenesses now. And the earth did not implode. We did not get, you know, we still have the sun comes up and gravity works. Like, but I do like how the NBA is allowing a path to circumvent the NCAA process, and young players can go to the Ignite in the G League to play.
I was about to say, the NBA's been pretty sneaky with that too.
Yeah.
They basically created a route to play in the G League but make real money, like $500,000 to $1 million versus $20K and riding around in a bus. They like created a way that these guys can make real money, and they're getting guys who normally would have gone to like Duke and Cuse and Kentucky, like real top prospects to the G League. I don't know how the end game is, but it seems like just eliminating the NCAA entirely.
But, well, after, you know, I think they changed the rules right after LeBron, and was it Stoudemire? Like, who? There were two people around the same time who back to back skipped the NCAA, and then they were like, nah.
We need that money. These are superstars, right?
We actually talk about that in the book with under Kwame Brown, and how he was he views himself as being vilified and singled out as the poster boy for like high school failure, and he basically says they did this because they wanted to change the rules back and, you know, amplified all of my failures and made a laughingstock of me, and that sucks that he's there. Like, this is how he goes through life.
He did it. He's a success story.
Yeah, he was in the league for like 10 years.
He was good.
It was a win.
Yeah.
But here's a question I had about the logos. A couple years ago, they talked about making Kobe the new logo. Do you have any thoughts on an adjustment from Jerry West going forward?
Well, you're wearing a shirt that has a skeleton of Jerry West on it.
Yeah.
That's true.
Available at cookieshoops.com.
I think you probably have thoughts.
Andrew designed those.
Oh, you did. So you have thoughts, and you're making him wear them.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a starry night.
I mean, the Jerry West logo is beautiful. I think it's it's one of the greatest logos in America, I think. Changing it, I'm down to change things. I don't believe like the NBA should be a religion and nothing should stay static. But my only demand is it has to be beautiful, as beautiful. It could be Kobe Bryant, it could be Shaquille O'Neal, it could be, we saw Kareem Abdul-Jabbar last night, which was crazy. We were just in the hotel having beer, and the legend comes in, and there was a gasp in the room. Like, the air got sucked out, and some woman... yeah, you tell us. Yeah, it was incredible.
Some woman's like, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, she's like, oh my God, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And we're thinking the exact same thing.
But yeah, not even a stage whisper, just, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like, my only other time besides being here seeing him was on BART in San Francisco, like literally on the subway.
Wait, really?
You're like sitting on the train. I'm like, that guy's got some really long legs. Look up, I'm like, it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar by himself on BART.
He doesn't go from place to place like on a cloud, like effortlessly.
It was like, actually, we were in Oakland going to San Francisco, and I was just like, this is the last place. And I just was like, I said, hey, but
you talked to him?
One of the things that it reminded me is he is still somewhat of the people,
For sure.
who has also kind of walked and flew above, and that's kind of something that I think his legend has kind of connected. Another thing that's important that it is an opportunity for the NBA specifically is, do they really need one logo?
Wow, this is a merch gold. Are you talking like 5 logos?
32 teams. I'm just saying, like, doesn't, like, we now know if it's a guy with a basketball, red, white, and blue.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Because we don't look at the NBA logo and say, there he is, Jerry West.
Yeah.
44. Jerry. Loved those L's you took against the Celtics in the 1900s.
Yeah.
1875, that finally got his chip.
Like, LeBron James is the best player of all time. But he's not necessarily like Jerry West. That pose, pretty nice. People have tried to put LeBron James into that logo.
And they made that Kobe one after he died.
That's pretty nice.
Came up with like a version of Kobe.
Yeah, he's like, it would have to be a guard. It would have to be a forward because they look different. Like, Shaq, I love that. It would be amazing if it was that dunk logo.
The Oliver Miller logo.
But different ones for different things. It's just because we live in a time with plurality, right? So we don't have to, like, have one person or one thing to, like, represent, you know, and people are savvy enough that, like, Nike took off Nike and it was the swoosh was the swoosh, and now they block off the swoosh, and you can kind of, like, or it could be like, we have been so sadly conditioned to, like, we only need a couple cues to know what the brand is.
As you said, if you have that color scheme and you have the figure, the silhouette, and it's outlined in a way, you could put anyone in there. Like, it's Eric Snow, the logo.
Wow.
And also, we know the players. Like, I mean, what's fascinating is you can recognize Jordan's silhouette very easily, you know, and that part of, there was a Nike campaign in the 90s where it was like, it was all these posters where it was like just his silhouette, but in the rest of the game it was like as if the question was like, what would the league be without him?
I remember that. That was wonderful.
When you were growing up, did you have the height poster of Michael Jordan?
I couldn't find it, but it's iconic, right?
It's like, you know, when you were a kid, they'd measure you and they'd mark it off with a pen as you grow, and it was like MJ up, and it was obviously 6'6" tall.
Yeah.
We had the Wings poster. That was the big one.
I had that one too.
Same. That's a great one.
I did the one where he was dunking the moon. You know, they just replaced the ball with the moon. That was tight.
I remember that.
Photoshopped.
Oh.
I was there.
You saw it.
Yeah. So, have you been able to enjoy what?
You've been not seeing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
What else have you been doing?
Well, I brought my own professional guide. Our special guest,
The golden net.
The golden
net.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons.
Hank, can you introduce him as I hand the mic to him?
Sure. Well, what I was going to say is that, like, I go to art fairs all the time, you know, and I have gone to games, but there's nothing like going to an All-Star game, except for going to Art Basel. It's like a weird. One time I was talking to someone about art fairs, and they were like, "It's a trade show, right?" And they're like, "I was like, a trade show."
Yeah.
I was like, never. But coming here and seeing how it's very different, yet there is a connection to, like, the way in which a city kind of is, you know, claimed by these people, and then there's these icons and these pop-ups and these events, and there's stuff to sell and stuff to buy. And art, unfortunately, we don't have anything that exciting to.
Because you're saying this is your freeze week, though.
But it is, yeah, it is, and so this opportunity which was really exciting, was to show my work in a place where it actually makes more sense sometimes than the art world is really cool. And my friend Jeremy, John Kaplan, DA Golden Net, has been a person who's been in conversation with me in the work for a long time, but we, through this opportunity, have had a new opportunity to, like, bond, and also the stuff I don't know, I get to, like, ask him, and he can, like, you know, tell 5 stories about everything and where these people were and what happened. So we got to, we've been kind of, like, spreading ourselves around and kind of learning from people's experiences. How many times have you all been here?
This is only the second All-Star weekend that I've been to, and the other one was in New York, so it doesn't really count.
Yeah, but next time we'll all be here.
It's Golden Net.
Yeah. Thank you, Hank, and thank you, Cookies. First time, long time. So yeah, I mean, I think it's been really interesting. I, like Hank, have traveled to many art fairs, and this is my first All-Star Weekend. Although, if I was not physically here, I would 100% be tuned in and
Looking at a photo.
And there's like the energy here is somewhat similar in that, like, you know, you hustle around to a million events, and you know, I'm sure the industry gets smaller and smaller, sort of the same way that the art world does. But it's really refreshing for me to just kind of tap into like a whole different place. I've never been to Cleveland. I've never been to All-Star Weekend, and I'm way into it. And I do like that, you know, Hank does lean on me to kind of fill in some of these blanks. It was a really funny conversation explaining to him, Ben, your role in Burnergate.
Oh, yeah. And Andrew as well.
Oh, he was the anonymous too.
He's a Colangelo.
The whistle has been blown.
But tell us about the Golden Net.
So yeah,
And wait, what do you know about basketball?
Not too much. I somehow got roped into playing for the complex team in a 3-on-3 tournament this morning.
Whoa.
Wait, how many players were there? Because I was supposed to play in it, and then they said there's 7 guys who are already in the complex team. And
I showed up to watch, and a couple of friends of mine were on the team, and turns out they only had 3 for the 3-on-3.
They told me they had 7. I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to have another drink and go to bed.
We could have used you, Ben, but we were outmatched. Simply outmatched.
Were you outcoached? Outsmarted?
Yeah, they wanted it more. They did.
Knew there was something.
They certainly did. So I should, you know, just touch on my project. I have a project called Golden Nets Project. We started in 2005 in Philly with some good friends and collaborators of mine. And the idea is to identify a need of an empty net, which is, as anyone that shoots on a basketball court finds that to be a terribly problematic. So we specifically replace nets that are tattered or ripped or missing altogether, and so it's like the act of restoring the net with a gold dyed net. There's a photo project associated with it, but I've found that it's a way of, you know, just simple entry point into a community. Do it as a bit of a performance. I wear white overalls, sort of in service of the game. So yeah, I've it's been really a fun, both artistically fulfilling, but also just an excuse to go to different parks. You know, even it's primarily been in Philadelphia and New York, but it also has been in several other cities on a smaller scale.
You show up with a ladder in a white overalls.
Yep.
Coming to doctor.
Yep.
Empty, needy nets.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what I think you've had some stories.
Several stories. You know, some of the small interactions are the ones that are kind of the most meaningful. Is, you know, you'll see kids come up to you and they're like, "Well, what are you doing here? Like, who do you work for?" And I like to say, I'm working for you. And that's when they're like, "Oh yeah, well then you should fix these lights." There's one story that kind of is the one that really stuck for me, which was when I live in East Williamsburg and near the Cooper houses, and I had been playing ball at a church in a pickup game, and I was like moving my car, you know, alternate side street parking. I had to like move, and I go and I see, let me check out. I ended up parking right by the Frost Street playground in Cooper Park, or in Cooper houses, and I saw that there was no nets. There's 4 courts, not even a tattered, ripped piece of a net, but there was a T lit in candles with still flickering candles, and you know, as I mentioned, I usually gum during the day and make like a whole thing out of it and document it, but I was like, whoever left this memorial would appreciate if they came out in the morning and there was nets. So I, you know, it's midnight, had the ladder in the car, start going out there. I'm wearing, you know, slides, and eventually I start to get the attention of some of the people that were still kind of roaming around. One guy came out and did a push-up and kissed the playground ground next to this tee. Still had no idea what had taken place. Turns out a guy named Torian Spears passed away while playing, a guy sort of similar age of ours. And it ended up, one of the guys was saying, you know, thank you for putting the nets, but it's going to be a while until we're back out here. And it was like, maybe there's a way that we can honor him in this. And at that moment sort of led to like 3 years of collaborating with that community, and we have a documentary that's forthcoming. Fingers crossed we get it placed into one of the festivals that we've submitted to, but with the goal of really doing a full court reno and potentially even renaming the court after Torian Spears, which is that's sort of an example of the way that, you know, the net is a perishable item. It's not necessarily like the most important component of any park, but it is an entry point into like how we can take care of the spaces that we roam through.
And how do you feel about double rims?
I think it makes you a better jump shooter.
Wow.
If you can shoot on a double rim and then you go into a nice gym, then, you know. But at the same time, I think it is deterrent. A lot of those, you know, New York guys have better layup packages than they have jump shots, probably because of that same reason.
Well, I kind of wanted to ask both you guys, like we were talking about art fairs and going to weekends like this where we all kind of celebrate one thing. And for me, the art fairs feels different than this weekend does, because there's like stuff to see, and then we kind of view it and we think about it, and there's all the stuff surrounding it. But in basketball, I feel like listening to your story and seeing your artwork, we've figured out a way to participate with this thing. Obviously, I can't dunk a basketball. I cannot even dribble. Yeah, right. After I come out of COVID officially, I'll be able to get my hops back. But I think it's a wonderful way to enjoy the thing, making artworks, doing this project where you like inject kind of like a story into a place that existed without that story before. I don't know. Do you guys feel like this is like a different way to be a fan?
Yeah. Well, I think sports is a gateway to shared memory. That you know, I remember when, or did you see that? Because of highlights, and you know, we could actually share memories of things we didn't even know about, people we didn't know about that we weren't there for, but we can get that feeling. It's a portal back into time, and that for me is exciting. That now, you know, I had a really kind of cool experience today right before I came here. We were running a little bit late because a fan of mine came in to see my work. His name's Grant Hill. He's like, it's really great to meet you. I'm a big fan. I'm like, yeah, you're welcome. It's so nice to meet you. But there's like this, because I wouldn't think about that in that way, that, you know, athletes can think about my work, which is sometimes about or reflective of them.
Yes.
Being something that can be inspiring to them. So that's now a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the parallels, too, is that sort of artists and athletes, their greatness is relative to the audience, right? Like work that's sitting in your studio that no one has ever seen can't be considered a masterpiece, right? Like greatness can happen in an empty gym, but that star grows with an audience. And that's why you know, and we were talking about this sort of throughout the time of the exhibition. It's like those dazzling moments, right? Like, and that's what makes the athlete so compelling. It's like you get to actually witness that, whereas an artist gets to fail over and over and over again behind closed doors, and then gets to kind of roll out their show pony. But the athlete doesn't get that luxury.
I mean, you've heard our show, and we talk about the lack of sympathy for athletes a lot too. When the public will trash a guy after having a bad game, and that's the lowest point of the guy's life already, and then he's like, all right, what are they saying? Like,
And then they'll stick a microphone in his face.
right. I mean, this is someone,
cry.
this is someone who's a hyper competitive, you know, at the best at what he does on the planet, and he like bricks a jumper, and he's like, oh my God, I failed. This is the worst moment. And then the people who are like your believers just tear you apart. And your point about artists being able to only unveil things when they're done, there still is that moment though where the public gets to decide whether they like it or not though.
Oh yeah, totally.
But the trash talking is not nearly as vicious. And
You should see Andrew's show. It's just he's heckled mercilessly.
Also, as I was thinking about last night in the slam dunk contest, where there was some disappointment there, and trying to empathize with like what it's like to be like on that stage and trying to do something really, really hard in front of thousands of people. It's intense.
I know. People were saying like, well, why doesn't John Morant do this, or why doesn't an amazing all-star dunker take part? And I'm like, they don't want any of that smoke. Like this is a moment of vulnerability, and the failure is there for all of us to see.
Yeah.
And like, shout out to those 4 kings that gave us a show last night, right? They did their best. They wanted to make the best dunk in history.
Right.
And they tried. And it wasn't as thrilling as other dunk contests, but I think we're slowly moving to a more sympathetic way, I hope, to view this all. All the stuff that happens like on Twitter, it feels different when you remove yourself and you're in the arena, in my opinion. Because I know if I was sitting next to my computer, it would be a joke fest. But we were in the building, and it was
you can feel the
a good
heartbreak,
time.
but when like someone's
Well, there's only but so many technological advancements to a dunk, right? And that's where I feel like with sort of similarly with artists, like if you made minimalist painting today, people might look at it and think it's completely irrelevant. But at the time, it was really important.
He's
right?
talking about
like,
you.
I know. I'm like, love those color fields.
But that's why your work has the spin on it that you put on it, because that's the advancement, right? So like the dunker that does the same dunk that Dominique Wilkins was doing in the 80s, there's no reverence around it today because it's not that moment.
And we've also reached that point where these guys are so good at dunks that stuff that would have seemed insane a decade ago, it's like, did the guy just do a 360 like with an East Bay and then tomahawk it? You're like, ho hum. Yeah, I guess he did. Like you're watching the replays, that was kind of mid, except that was insane.
Yeah.
But we're not even impressed by it anymore.
The thing is, after Vince Carter, they should have just been like, this is over. This is happening in front of people.
Aaron Gordon. That was fun.
Or D. Brown. But
We were talking again last night. Why do they bring back the horse competition? A little game of pig.
Those old clips of who is
Pistol
it?
Pete.
It's Pistol Pete,
Yeah.
and it's really quaint. You see Pistol Pete like doing like behind the back like layup under his leg. You're like, yeah, I can do that.
But yeah, also, when did the dunk become legal?
Oh, that's right.
It was pre-NBA. I mean,
Oh.
it was before 1996. As far as I'm concerned.
NBA, of course.
Will Chamberlain wasn't allowed.
Because I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was one of the first people who like made it so that they couldn't, like, people started to be excited about him dunking, and they're like, okay, maybe we should change the rules.
It was definitely outlawed for a period of time.
Was it Will?
That's what made the.
Wait, there's another special guest.
I think that's what made the ABA relevant, was because they allowed dunking. So Dr. J went to the ABA, and obviously we know that story.
Dunk expert.
Thank you, Ghost.
Stanley.
But so, after like 40 years of people doing it, it's a lot harder to get some excitement about it, because
It's just going to take someone else who is that inventive that it'll make another one of those kind of generational leaps. No pun intended.
what if they just did it like the 3-point shot, where like they basically just, how many dunks can you do back to back to back to back to back? Like that would be exciting.
They did that one year, I believe, the John Wall year, where he won, right? Where they had like a bunch of players on the court, and they can help each other, give each other oops. And it went so fast. They put a clock on it, and all of a sudden we're like, we guess John Wall won? And we were like, but you were onto something. And they were onto something. But like, again, like, I feel like with this world, the adjustments are small and sort of hard to notice. But then when you look at Pistol Pete playing horse, you're like, oh, we've come a long way, to Cole Anthony dunking in Tim's, and like, Obi Toppin, I thought his dunk last night was phenomenal, but it was hard to register in the building, and he had to like tell everyone to look at their replay.
The one where he pulled the chopped cheese off the rim, put it behind his back, turned it into a pizza rat.
That's right.
I had an idea for a dunk for whoever's listening that's going to be in the next one.
Let's go.
Andrew.
Oh, this was a good idea.
I'll do this one.
Tune
Like
in.
a 360 selfie dunk.
Oh, that's a good idea. Just like incorporating
Like
social
this.
media,
Like,
Can't see
like-
this, but he is showing us
like a
what
Matrix
selfie
kind of
looks
move,
like.
right?
exactly.
Hells yeah. Oh yeah, and then they can post it and
Yeah, in slow motion, they're like, and like immediately it will go viral.
it would have to be someone who can like dunk with palm the ball securely enough to hold the phone and the ball.
Yeah. JaVale McGee. You can do that.
I love Jamel McGee's double backboard dunk.
Yes.
That was impossible. How did he do that? Like, yeah, the chatter around the dunk contest is like, should we just end it? I'm like, we've had some really amazing dunks after Vince Carter even.
I didn't see this one, so I feel bad.
It was good. I wouldn't say it was Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon levels.
Last night?
Yeah.
Last night was really bad.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I'm not trying to hate on them. Like they did their best. It was not a good dunk.
There wasn't enough of them for it to be enough competition.
There's only There's only 4 guys. I will say Obi's final dunk was very cool in slow motion.
And he got it on the first try.
That was a sick dunk. He kind of pinned it on the backboard momentarily and then dunked it.
That was
But
technically his second try, though.
But you had to. He tried it earlier.
He tried an earlier round.
You're right. But that was way more impressive in slow motion, which he told us. He said you're gonna have to watch this in slow motion.
It was literally incredible.
That was an insane dunk.
It was not jumping over a car.
The Kia moment with Baron Davis's head poking out of the sunroof. That was awesome. Didn't someone try to jump over like an object and then they broke it? I forget. It was like I forget what that was. I mean, in the arena it felt much different than watching at home. Like DJ Khaled, man. That was amazing. By the time like he was done, it was like that Maxell logo, right? My hair was blown back. It was
You were ready for another one?
yeah. Let's go.
But what was funny is that when you said that, like, who was on stage with him?
Mary. Oh, he brought Wayne.
Yeah, Mary
Like that was kind of breathtaking. Luda. That was amazing.
Migos.
Yeah, and I heard Quavo's around playing some pickup this weekend.
But then I forgot 2 Chainz was right there.
2 Chainz was there.
You could just brought two Chainz on stage. I was like trying to figure out who else could have been added to the lineup.
Fat Joe was
Fat
definitely-
Joe, yeah. I mean, if I were him, I would have just been like passing the mic. Yeah, just keep the beat running.
But compared to Wayne, like, no disrespect to 2 Chainz, who has many hits, underrated, I think, but like the level of star power on that stage was
Oh
breathtaking.
no, yeah, he built it up though. Yeah.
But then he ended with his own verse, right? And I'm like, classic DJ.
No one knows because no one's ever listened to the man rap. I didn't even know he had a verse.
I was actually most impressed to see Ludacris because Ludacris is also underrated for his talent.
I agree. I feel like he tried to become more accessible. Like he started becoming like, he wanted to be a bigger star, sort of like Ice Cube, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't quite work as well as Ice Cube did for him. I felt like he could have, if he stayed with his direction in a straight line, he could have been a bigger star maybe.
But he
Didn't
is
they
in
make
the
like
biggest
45
movie.
Fast and Furious
Yeah,
movies?
he's like
My blind spot is Fast and Furious, so point taken.
he's an extra, but still.
You're slow and furious.
Slow and kind of mad.
Just irked. moving at a slow speed.
Slow and
But yeah, Luda just, he ran things for about a year and change. It was just every song had a Luda remix. His head grew larger and larger in every video. Mm-hmm. Like just blotting out the sun. Just enormous. Wayne
was sober, which that was also the thing.
Sober Wayne?
I feel like he was sober last night.
Is he on he's changed, right?
Changed Wayne.
Well, thank God he's still with us because there was like numerous rumors of his demise, numerous a number of times.
I feel like he had a couple seizures on planes.
Not good. Not good.
They landed the plane like emergency landing.
That's right. We thought he was in trouble.
Got shot too by himself, right?
Wait, he shot himself?
Like 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Think about this. Did you see their necklaces last night? And Lil Wayne actually, bling bling, he coined the phrase.
Hot boys?
Yeah, remember like all that stuff that was like on all of the Cash Money, like that they could only do in Photoshop back in the day. Now they're like wearing
Pen and Pixel.
the whole
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
That was I think, I always joke with Ben, I wasted so many of my years of my youth listening to like electronic music when the best music was like coming from the South. Pen and Pixel, Master P, the Hot Boys, Birdman. And then I've been revisiting all that music recently. Sounds better than ever.
Also, Memphis.
Yeah.
Like growing up on the East Coast and listening to East Coast centric music, I did that for too long.
Yeah.
And like missing out on like 3-6 when
I
they
was
were
too
like,
into the Wu-Tang Clan.
is it possible?
I don't know, Supreme Clientele, like,
That's what I mean.
yeah.
Is Wu-Tang doing something with Disney? I feel like I saw a Disney Disney Plus commercial,
There-
and there was like a Wu-Tang logo.
There's a Wu-Tang show with actors playing the members of Wu-Tang.
But that's on
That's on
Hulu.
Showtime or
Oh,
something.
okay.
Or-
That's not
yeah,
what you're
it's
talking
on one of the streaming
But you know,
platforms.
like Disney's been buying up everything, like
Kardashian.
Marvel, Avengers.
Yeah.
It would make sense that they buy Wu-Tang.
They should have an animated Wu-Tang series at one point. Let's put that out there.
The animated Wu-Tang.
That'd be good.
How did they
You could-
not?
Yeah, and they can have Old Dirty Bastard in it
Again.
I mean, I watched that show, that scripted show with actors. It was okay. I was wondering, like, they're reasonably not dramatic. Like, they had infighting, they had a tragic death, but they, like, in general, stayed together, got along, lived healthy lives.
Focused on the RZA running guns out to Ohio. You know, just all sorts of activities and pastimes.
Yeah, I mean,
It could have gone, horribly wrong.
they're all celebrated.
Led Zeppelin, like
I remember going to a Wu-Tang show in Jersey, and it was supposed to be a reunion, and everyone was there except Old Dirty wasn't. And it turned out it was the night that he died. It was that night, so he wasn't at the show, and he was in the studio, and I believe that's where he had a heart attack. I forget the exact details of how he died, but I remember being out there, and this was their first time they performed together as a whole crew in a long time. And I think Capadonna came out first, and he did his thing. And second was U-God. And U-God comes out, and they're playing a song, and he falls into the orchestra pit.
nobody catches him.
And I just kind of tumbled into there. There were security guys, and then there was an area that the fans were at. And he just falls off the stage, and I was backstage watching because I was covering it. And everyone just gasps. And then he stops rapping because the instrumental is just going onwards, and then you hear him, and then you still can't hear him. You hear like starts rapping again. He's like, and he's like rapping from the ground, and then security like brings him back up on stage, and his publicist walks by me. She's like, "You're not gonna put that in the story, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she hands me a card, and I was like, "Cool." And I look at it, and it was like, "You got it, GeoCities" or something like that. I'm just like, this is the best.
Wow, and he's mad at the RZA because he feels like he didn't get his album, which that might have explained it.
And they were mad about that NFT sale, right? The group was mad at the RZA for turning their album into the NFT, the physical NFT, where Skrelly,
Fungible.
the fungible token, and they were all mad about that because they thought, they put in a lot of work, and he made it into an art object, a gesture I appreciate.
And did they make money?
I think he sold it for like $2 million to Skrelly, right? I don't know how the Wu-Tang divides up the money.
RZA got it.
I think the RZA, yeah.
Has anybody heard that record yet?
I don't believe so.
There was talk that it would be exhibited in a museum and setting, and you could only witness it in that
Oh, I love it.
climate.
From my understanding, it was taken by the government when
Yep.
Skrillex was imprisoned, and rightfully so. Skrillex went down, But they took the album and then they auctioned it off, and someone paid a couple $1 million for it. But it has a seal, so you'd know if it had been listened to.
Yeah.
So I believe it's actually CDs, but it's sealed. So someone bought it, and whether they've opened it or not, I couldn't say. But it is back in the hands of like a private individual. Is it you?
When
I have it.
you got took off from the baseline, did you write about it ultimately? And
Yeah, it's in there.
and you still have all your teeth.
You God's a forgiving God.
I used to share a studio space with a guy who was doing some Bobby Digital movies. So the RZA would come through quite a bit, and Method Man would come with him, and all their biking gear, the stuff that they had as for their uniforms during that era. And I would try it on at night, and I would just I was
Do you have pictures?
probably somewhere not digital, but yeah. And so I spent a few summers hanging out with the RZA as they were preparing to shoot these kung fu movies that kind of never really came out, and it was interesting, man. The RZA is an artist, and I mean that he has a vision and he changes his vision, and then he goes all in, and then he moves on, and I am just so impressed that he still makes Wu-Tang records.
But he does make. He's such a brilliant conceptual artist. He makes records that you can't hear.
Yeah.
So nobody even knows if it's bad.
Yeah, what are the chances that record's fire?
I don't even know exactly when it was recorded. Was it recorded during an era when we cared about Wu-Tang? I don't think so. It's probably Gravel Pit at latest.
Wait,
Yeah, so probably not that great.
that was great.
I do enjoy the television show quite a bit, and I will interject my one Wu-Tang story because it's actually irrelevant to the band, but to the TV show, and it kind of circles back to the game in that I play in a rec league in New York, and I affectionately refer to it as the Yuppie League, and it's called the Urban Professionals League. They did that to themselves. So I had finished a game, and it was post-COVID. We hadn't had a lot of chances to play before that, so a guy comes up to me and is like, "Hey, do you want to join our team for we're short a guy for the next game?" I'm like, "Yeah, I could probably use the extra run. Let's do it." And one of my other teammates was like, "That guy's famous. I know that guy." I'm like, I don't, but all right, we'll get out of here. So proceeds to be one of the worst players I've ever seen on a court. The team, we got blown out by I think 40. It was just punishment. And then we're in a gym that has 7 escalators up to get to the gym in a school in Manhattan. And then we're taking this long ride down. I'm like, "So I do recognize you, since either we've met or you're famous." And he's like, "Oh, well, do you watch the Wu-Tang show?" And it's Steve Rifkin. It's I want to say his name is Jake. It's Jake Hoffman. It's Dustin Hoffman's kid. Really was a nice guy, but if you see him on the court, don't pick him. Pick him last. You want to make sure he's your stuff. He didn't want it at all. Actually, he wanted it too much. He was jacking shots just from deep and didn't hit
Rain Man.
Yeah.
He was trying to make it rain.
So before we wrap up here, you have your show here. It closes today, from my understanding.
Yes. However, you can spend time with it through pictures.
Yes. And can we look forward to seeing more of this line of work?
Yeah, I'm super excited to be able to be here. Thanks to Stan Lumax and Complex for bringing me over here. There's so much happening that I really hope that I'll be able to participate in the Joy Basketball Volume 2.
Absolutely.
Hells yeah.
Edition
Would be an
5.
honor.
Yeah, so I it's just the beginning. It feels like that. I've had the privilege of seeing things grow, and what's crazy now is thinking about how much the NBA's growth is connected to just bringing people together, making them feel good, and making them think that the next best thing is possible. And I think that can be applied to anything.
And we're going to look for golden nets on playgrounds throughout the North Brooklyn area. Well, thank you two for both being here. That was fantastic. And enjoy the rest of your All-Star weekend.
I love cookies.
We eat 'em.
I love cookies.
Yeah, there's no more.
I love cookies. I love cookies.
Thank you. That was wonderful.